Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the rounds I played at the 19th annual Southside Smackdown out of Mobile, Alabama. We played one round at Langham Municipal Park and one round over at the University of South Alabama. So two courses I'm very familiar with. I kind of consider them home courses, and so felt pretty good about that. I didn't really have too many expectations or goals coming into this event as far as placement. I wasn't really thinking about results a whole lot. I mean, obviously, I wanted to shoot above my rating and try to get my rating up. Like, one of my goals is to get to 900 on PDGA rating. But the other big thing I was trying to do was just get my mental game back right, because after I had my big win at the end of last year, I feel like I had this kind of false sense of confidence and that I had gotten my mental game together really nicely. But then I suffered some adversity at some events earlier this year where I wasn't playing well at all, and my mental game kind of went back in the dumpster. And so I kind of realized that, my mental game was something I still really needed to work on and try to get right. And so that was really my biggest focus throughout this event, was just the mental game. Yeah, it's natural to get frustrated when you throw a bad shot, but I needed to be able to snap out of it very quickly and just move on to the next shot and just try to keep a positive, upbeat attitude and just keep pushing and not give up, sort of thing. So that was really my main focuses coming into this. I will say that it was very, very windy conditions throughout this tournament, and so scoring was definitely a lot tougher and shots were a lot more unpredictable. And so that definitely made me have to temper my expectations a bit on how well I could score, just dealing with the wind all day long. Particularly in the first round, the wind was really severe. Second round, it calmed down a little bit, but was still impactful. But without further ado, we're going to go through the rounds in chronological order and kind of talk things through. And yeah, hope you folks enjoyed it. If you do, please follow and subscribe, because we're looking to, push to that 900 subscriber goal, and I'm getting quite close. All right, so I started at hole 11 for my first hole at Langham Municipal Park. Again, very windy conditions, and so between the wind and some first throw of the tournament jitters, I wound up kind of turfing that. The wind just started gusting as soon as I let go of that disc and just threw it off, and again, I was a little shaky, just, some first hole nerves. Also threw a really scary approach shot there, but still gave myself a chance to grab a par here. But it was definitely not the type of putt you want to start out with in your tournament, to have this far of a putt to have to make to get your first par. And I wound up just not committing to it. Leaked it left early. And so now this is for bogey. And just threw it low. So I'd start off my tournament with a double bogey. Definitely not how I wanted to start things off. This next hole I played really safe. Just chipping a forehand up into the fairway to pitch up for a par. Didn't want to risk going OB left or right on this one with the wind. And after having a tough first hole, I kind of just wanted to settle in. So I get to the third hole here, hole 12, in the short position. A little bit out of my reach to attack, really, for birdie. So I was looking just to, again, play like a, pretty comfortable shot up the fairway. Just pitch up and grab a par. Again, just try to get back on the rails after a tough first hole. And I wound up throwing a pretty rough backhand approach shot there. Definitely gave myself a much harder putt than I needed to, but still certainly doable. Definitely nice to grab that putt after missing that big putt on the first hole. So still 2 over par for the round here. This is probably one of my best drives of the tournament, playing to the long pin position on hole 13. It's about 340 feet. And I gave myself like a 15 to 20 foot putt here for birdie. So usually you get stuck in that bush early. So I gave myself a chance, was able to capitalize, so that was really nice. Then again on this hole, I was looking to play it really safe with that OB road left. Decided to play a forehand to play away from the OB and just try to play for par mostly. Sometimes I get aggressive with the backhand and actually try to birdie this hole, but with the wind that we had, it just didn't seem worth it. Yeah, and I wound up kind of pulling that backhand approach shot a little bit. Here you can see some of the gust that we were dealing with. I think that was the biggest problem of the day, was that it wasn't a steady wind. It was gust, and they would often change direction. Like, you'd feel a gust one way, then 5 seconds later it'd be a gust a different direction, which just made it really tough to read on what disc to select and what type of throw to do. On this hole, I was just playing a safe shot outside because the ditch plays as OB. Wanted to just stay away from it. And here I threw a much better backhand approach shot when I park in the hole, so I was able to par that and keep myself now at 1 over par, I believe, because I birdied 13. Hole 16, just throwing a big flex forehand. And got all the way up there. Gave myself a look for birdie here to try to get myself back to even par. Was dealing with a bit of a headwind in this situation. But I gave the headwind way too much credit and just threw the putt low. I should have just trusted my putt and threw it normal, but I thought the headwind was going to lift it. And yeah, this is just me playing extremely safe, trying to stay away from that OB ditch to the left. Yeah, definitely a little too safe to try to attack this thing for birdie. But I'm still trying to give it a chance, see if I can get up and down to grab a birdie here. Throw a nice power forehand and try to get up to the green to get a putt. And I didn't do too bad, but this is definitely a pretty lengthy putt. Didn't really get myself inside circle one to have, you know, like a good shot at birdie. Gave it a decent bid, just came up a little bit short. Now, we don't have hole 18 footage, but I wound up parring that hole, so I'm still sitting at 1 over for the round. And now we're at hole 1. Decided to go to a backhand. I usually throw forehand on this hole, but my forehand's been kind of dodgy lately, so decided to go with the backhand route this time around. As you can see, I put myself in a great position. So I was able to snag a birdie here, and this actually puts me to even par. Now we're on hole 2. Another hole that I'm really looking to score on here on the front 9 at Langen. Though a pretty nice drive here. Just got a lot more ground action than I wanted. I probably should have thrown a slower disc or played it a little more outside. And so I actually wound up being deep of the pin. A pretty good amount. And just didn't quite follow through that putt well enough. I'm going to stop here real quick. This was hole 18. We didn't really catch the drive or the upshot, but I actually threw a horrible drive off the tee. I threw a pretty incredible upshot to even give myself a chance to save par on this hole. But I'm still left with about a 30-footer to save par on this hole. And that one felt nice to get after missing the putt on hole 2. Also, hole 3, don't have it on film, but on hole 3, I went up throwing out of bounds deep into the water and then missed the par save putt from the OB line. And so I wound up taking a bogey on the hole. So now I think I'm back to 1 over par because I had birdied hole 1, which brought me to even. So now we're back to 1 over par, going into kind of the last stretch here. Just didn't quite flex that forehand enough. So I left myself a lengthy putt here, kind of pin high to the right. Still doable, but with the wind and with it being kind of downhill, it's just kind of an awkward putt for me. I'm not used to, and just didn't throw the putt high enough. So that's a par. So staying at 1 over. And the wind just took this disc on a ride. You can't even really see it on camera. Like, it just lifted it way up in the air and brought it way left. And so I was really short. I didn't even actually try to make this putt. This was a layup just to get my par. Yeah, and that disc just turned and burned due to the wind. I thought it was a right to left wind, so I thought it would straighten my disc out, but it wound up being a headwind, so it just rolled over. So now I'm just trying to get up and down for birdie still. Trying to throw an aggressive flex forehand to get up to the green. But I flexed it too much, wound up being out of bounds. So this is actually a par save putt because this is a par 4. Just come up short, so wound up bogeying that hole. So now I'm back to 2 over par on the round. On to hole 7 here. Just put this disc out a little too much. I thought there was a right to left wind that would kind of carry it back towards the green, but just played it too wide. So I leave myself a long putt for birdie here. Try to give it a little chance, but just came up short. So this is hole 8 to par 4. Not a terrible drive by any means, but just didn't get it as far forward as I'd like to. Then this forehand was just early released and swooped up. And that's actually been a big issue of mine that I'm going to have to work on going forward that I noticed is that my forehand is just in a kind of a rough spot right now. I'm just kind of releasing early quite often, and it's really kind of messing me up. So I wound up parring that hole after that upshot. So now we're on the hole 9. A pretty long par 3, so again, not looking to do anything but just, you know, play smart and try to grab the par. And made a pretty good amount of progress up the fairway. I actually wound up throwing this up shot longer than I wanted to. So it leaves me kind of a longer putt to save the par. Probably like 25, 30 feet on this one. But really good putt there. My putting felt good for the most part, other than just like a couple of hiccups this tournament. So that's definitely improved, which is nice. Definitely been putting a lot of practice into putting, so I'm glad it kind of was paying off this tournament. It was like I was making the long par save putts, but I wasn't able to connect on some of the shorter birdie putts, which was a little bit frustrating. But I throw a good backhand up shot here to park this hole to par it. And so as you can see here, I pretty much have a tap in, and this actually finishes off my first round of the tournament. So we'll take a look here at the score. I wound up shooting 2 over par, which was 910 rated on the day. I think a lot of that rating boost had to do with just how windy it was, so no one was really scoring very well. I think even par would have been probably like, 940 rated or something like that. So yeah, basically I started on a hole 11, started the tournament with a double bogey. Just, again, jitters and wind, I think, were a big factor in how that first hole played out. Played really, really safe through a lot of this stretch on the back half of the course. Because really the only holes I feel like I can score on the back half of the course was, well, for one, I kind of was surprised I scored 13. I know this says 310, but it's more like 340. Usually I don't score 113s in the long pin position, so picking that up was actually kind of a bonus. And it actually kind of made up for some of the hiccups on hole 11. But really on the back 9, the main holes I try to score on are really 16 and 17. Because 16's a par 3 that I can reach and put myself in the circle to have a putt. As you saw in the video, I just thought there was a headwind that was there, but wasn't really strong enough to impact my putt. I gave it too much credit, wound up putting low, hit the basket, so took a par instead. And then 17's a hole I can usually attack for birdie as well with a couple of good forehands. With it being a par 4, but just kind of slipped up. So really, in my opinion, when it came to the back 9 of the course, the only real mistakes I made were not being able to par hole 11, which is not a hole that I usually would birdie, but usually a hole I want to par. So hole 11 was a pretty big mistake. And then I definitely made a mistake on the putting green on hole 16, where I should have been able to grab a birdie there and wound up coming up short. And then 17, I threw a decent drive off the tee, but not forward enough to really give myself like a decent approach shot for a birdie attempt. And so that was a little bit of a mishap there as well. So I kind of messed up 3 holes in the back 9 out of the 9 holes, played 6 holes pretty well. Then on the front 9, I birdied the first hole, so that was obviously good. Hole 2, I really should be birdieing this hole if I want to be competitive. So this was a little bit of a blunder. Wasn't a terrible drive. I just, didn't quite put it outside enough. I should have either thrown a slower disc or I should have thrown the disc more outside so it could skip to the basket as opposed to skipping deep and forward and getting behind the basket, giving myself a long putt, which I wound up missing as well. So a couple little mistakes there on hole 2. Hole A, par is good on that hole for me. So even though I had a couple of mishaps on the hole, I kept my composure and still got the par, which is big. Hole 3, this is a mistake. This is a hole that I should be birdieing, or at the very least I should be parring. So this was kind of a big mistake here. And then hole 4 is whatever. Hole 5 is, kind of whatever. I'm hit or miss on these 2 holes anyway, so I don't really count any mistakes there. Then obviously made a mistake on hole 6 going out of bounds on my second shot. And then 7 is a hole that I can usually birdie, but in the windy conditions, I'm fine with taking a par there. Hole 8, fine with the par on that, considering the wind. And then hole 9 and 10 are holes I never really am attacking for birdie anyway, so pars are great there. So basically, I would say of the 20 holes that we played, I really only made mistakes on, 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes, 4 holes. We'll say 5. So, 5 of the 20 holes, I kind of had some mishaps, and the other 15 I played pretty well. So, not too shabby. It kind of stinks because I feel like I usually average around 2 under par to 6 under par when I play this course casually, but I've never been able to shoot under par in a tournament so far. Again, this wasn't the best conditions for scoring, so I give myself a little bit of a break, especially since I started the tournament with a double bogey. So I'm starting off the tournament 2 over par, and then I wound up shooting even the rest of the day at this course. So all in all, I wasn't totally disappointed in it. I definitely knew I had left a couple of strokes out there. But all said and done, I was actually only, I think, 1 or 2 strokes behind the leader. I think I was tied for second or third place going into the second round. So all in all, not too shabby. We can go ahead and jump into the second round here over at the University of South Alabama. I wound up starting on hole 10, which is a pretty daunting starting hole because it's like a tunnel shot off the tee. It's a longer par 4. Just threw the disc too low on a turnover. Just played a smart kind of standstill shot for my second shot. Now I'm trying to still see if I can get up and down to save par on the hole. Threw what I thought was a pretty good approach shot there, but I wound up actually being a little bit short. So instead of putting myself in circle 1, I'm probably like 50 feet out. And just didn't throw a well enough putt. So I wound up bogeying this hole, which all in all is not too bad. This is a pretty difficult hole, but I was really hoping to at least get the par. So I'm going to make it the hole 12, which is a hole that I'm looking to par, but I can sometimes grab the birdie with the right shot. And this is actually a pretty good drive. It actually skips past the little hill area and gives me a look at a birdie putt. So I was pretty happy with the drive. And wind up just being a touch right on my putt. Now we come to like a longer tunnel shot here on hole 12. It's about 330. Not really a hole I'm looking to attack too aggressively. So I threw a really good shot there. I'm really happy with it. I gave myself a chance to grab birdie with a longer putt, but kind of guaranteed I'd grab the par. At least that's kind of what I'm thinking in my head. Yeah, I just didn't really get that a good bid. And so now this is me putting for par, but super windy. And it was dead center, but I hit like an inch too high. So I'm taking a bogey on that hole, which is really disappointing because I felt like that should be a par. So pause this because you guys probably haven't seen this hole before. This is actually a temporary hole between 12 and 13 at South. It's a par 3. It's a double island. There's this first island here that we're teeing off from. Then we tee to a second island. All this over here is out of bounds on the right. You have to stay on this upper level. If you come down to this sidewalk or this patch of grass here, that's out of bounds. And then this parking lot left is out of bounds as well. So I decided, with all the wind, to actually play conservative and just pitch up to the front of the first island off the tee. And I actually did really well. I put myself actually next to the short tee area. And so now I have only about 200 feet to the basket. I can see that there's white flags over here. So I know that this rocky area to the right of the pin is out of bounds. So I'm thinking to myself, the miss is left. You know, just throw a good shot. If I'm going to miss towards the left side of the green, give myself a good chance to go ahead and grab the par, which is all that I was playing for here. I threw what I thought was a decent approach shot. It was a little too powerful. And I'm actually going to tell you, I could not see these flags from the tee. So I didn't realize it, but I actually wound up going out of bounds deep. I didn't even know this out of bounds is here. I thought it was only on the right-hand side. So that's my mistake. I obviously should have checked like the OB sheet. But the point is that I slid like 1 foot out of bounds. I should have had a circle 1 putt for par, but as it stands now, I have a circle 1 putt to try to save bogey. And I wound up just throwing a really awful putt. So I actually take a double bogey on that hole, which is disappointing because I was trying to play smart and safe to get par. I might as well have went for it at that point if I'm going to take a double bogey. On here, on hole 13, though, I throw an excellent forehand off the tee. Now they're trying to get around the corner to try to play for par. And I execute the shot I wanted to nicely. And I actually wound up getting closer to the basket than I thought. So I actually had a chance for birdie here, so I figured I'd give it a run. Normally I'm just kind of laying up for par on this hole. But I get it in there, grab the birdie. So that kind of makes up for one of the strokes I took on the temp hole. But then this is one of those early release forehands I was talking about. And it was actually so early release that it actually bounced out of bounds off this walking path. And so now this is my par save putt from way far away. And I wound up taking a bogey on the hole. So basically just took the birdie I just got on a really hard hole and gave it right back to the course. Bogeying a hole that I should be at least be parring. That forehand was kind of average. It wasn't good, but it wasn't terrible. This is a par 4, so I still have a chance to get up and down.
Dude, you suck.
And that's me kind of cracking. I had actually done pretty well with my mental game in this tournament through the whole first round. Even when I was taking bogeys and stuff, I was kind of keeping my head straight. But after taking a double bogey on the 10th hole, birdieing 13, but then proceeding to bogey the very next hole, and now I'm messing this hole up because I can't throw a forehand correctly. It was really getting frustrating. And then I released the forehand early again.
Letting go of the forehand so early, dude.
And so now this is me putting for, I think that was just me laying up to get my bogey. I didn't really have a putt at the basket. And so I do want a bogey in this hole. So things are starting to get tough. As we're on hole 16. I thought this was a great forehand out of my hand, because usually you just kind of skip off the road back onto the fairway, but mine never made it back. So out of bounds yet again. So went out of bounds on 14. Now I'm out of bounds again on 16. Just trying to get up and down to save bogey. Throw a good backhand up shot there. Really happy with that. And this elevated hanging basket's always kind of a meme, but it did not get me that day. And so I wound up taking a bogey on the hole. So now we're on 17, and 17 again is like a basic tunnel shot, but there was an OB line to the left. So I was really super conscious about that since I already went OB a couple of times here very recently. And so I wound up turning it over too much, and I wound up turning it over into the hillside, which left me really far away from the basket. And so I just kind of pitch up, take my par on that one. Now we're hole 18. I'm trying to throw like a little skippy forehand up to the basket. Through kind of the line I wanted, but it was way shorter than I wanted to be. Obviously, I'm like 50, 60 feet from the basket when I'm looking to be in circle one. Gave it a good bid, but went on par on that hole. So now we're on hole 1. It feels like a tailwind, so I'm throwing kind of a more understable disc. And I wound up just yanking it over to the right, which I just misread the wind, or the wind shifted. I don't know. This is a hole that I usually par every time, and now I just have nothing. I try to scramble the best that I can to give myself a chance to save par, but again, it's like another really lengthy putt, and I come up just short, so I bogey that hole. So yeah, things are starting to get real rough all of a sudden on the course, starting to really pile the bogeys on. Then this is another one of those early release forehands I was talking about. It's just been a constant struggle lately, something I really need to kind of get to the field and work on and try to figure out as I scramble to try to save my par. This is a more reasonable par save putt compared to some of the other ones that have been kind of lengthy. So really trying to give this one a good chance. And, yep, just leave it a couple of inches too high. It was dead center, but just too high, so it's another bogey. So, yeah, things are kind of spiraling downward. But I throw a nice shot here on hole number 3. That wound up being under the basket, a drop-in birdie. So, got one stroke back there. Just turn this backhand over a little bit too much on this tunnel shot, but I'm still in a spot where I can get up and down for my par. Little patent pending backhand. Park the basket. Able to throw the par in there, as you can see, no problem. Now we're on the hole 5. A little bit of a downhill to the left. Pretty short shot. Just got to make sure I miss these trees, get underneath them, and get down the hill. And I throw pretty much the picture-perfect tee shot. Can't really ask for better than that. Right next to the basket here to grab myself a birdie. And no coming up short this time. So nice to grab those birdies. Now we're on hole 6, a little bit of a water carry. Had some kids in the background kind of screaming and hollering randomly, so it was a little distracting, but I still threw an okay shot. Made it over the water, kept myself in bounds, give myself another shot at birdie here, though this is a bit of a lengthier putt than you'd want. But I put it in there. So I birdied 3 of the last 4 holes. There was a 10th hole just before this one. I parred it. So now we're on the hole 7. And I just shanked it, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, just did not come through on that one. Wound up releasing early left. At this point, I'm just trying to scramble for a 4. Don't quite put myself in the best position. See like a little backhand gap there between the trees that I can fit my disc through, which I'm able to do to get me up to the green and at least salvage bogey which is about the best I could hope for after having such a rough tee shot. Now, on hole 8, this is a long par 4. I was well behind first place at this point, but I had second place pretty secured. But I watched the leader shank a shot way in these woods over here left, and I figured he was bogeying at best, if not maybe even taking a double. And because I think at the time he had a 3 or 4 stroke lead on me, so I laid up to the corner because I'm just going to play this hole for par, just trying to take a 4. Because if I can 4 the hole and the other guy winds up taking a 6 or a 7, all of a sudden it's like a 1 stroke difference going into the final hole, and then all of a sudden there's maybe a chance I could actually win instead of taking second place. So it's just me just kind of playing conservative and throw a good shot there. Again, I'm just playing for the 4 here, not trying to do anything crazy. Throw a nice little hybrid driver up the fairway. Little jump putt approach shot. Actually winds up going deeper than I anticipated, so kind of left myself a little bit more meat on the bone than I wanted to. But able to put it in, so I wound up par on that hole. And so now we're on the final hole of the tournament. I am, I think, 1 or 2 strokes behind the leader. And so I know I have to birdie this hole. It's like 360 feet. I know with the wind that we had, I had been trying to throw backhand roller on this hole because the basket's like way over here to the right. And so if you throw a backhand roller kind of this center direction and have it break right at the end, which is usually how backhand rollers work, I could actually get up to the green. And I had done it a couple times in practice where I thrown a backhand roller that made it to the green and gave myself like a 25-footer for birdie. But we had like a pretty strong tailwind, and so I really didn't think I could get the backhand roller to fly the way that I wanted to get to the green. So I figured my best bet was just to throw a power forehand, and even though I had been shaky all day, just hope for the best. And yeah, I just overturned this thing really bad. I mean, I threw it far enough forward. As you'll see here, I'm actually past the pin, but just way left. So I had the distance, but not the accuracy. So I just pitch up, and this is a par putt to end my tournament with. And it falls in. And with that, I wound up finishing this round, I think, 5 over par or 6 over par. And so I think I was either 7 or 8 over for the tournament overall. And I wound up taking second place. I shot 910 the first round, and I shot this round, I believe, was an 895 rated round. So I think I shot 903 or something like that overall for the tournament. So played above my rating, which was kind of one of my goals. My mental game for this tournament was okay the first round. Second round, I kind of cracked a little after having some rough breaks. But all in all, had a good time. So just to kind of talk over some final things here at the end of the video. Again, had a pretty good first round. Just a few mistakes here and there. Again, the win was a lot of it, but also just had a couple of little mistakes here on the putting green here and there, but still not too shabby of a round considering the weather conditions. We're just not favorable for scoring for AMs with it being so windy. Second round at South, though, I really dropped the ball. One of the out of bounds that I took early in the round on that 10th hole between 12 and 13 was kind of just me not paying attention to the OB sheet and not realizing there was OB deep left of the basket, and so that's on me. And then again, my forehand was a constant issue throughout the tournament. It was just so flaky. I threw a couple of good forehands, but I would say the vast majority of the forehands I threw off the tee were really early releases, 2 of which went out of bounds. On holes 14 and 16 at South, I went out of bounds due to my forehand off the tee. And considering I only lost the tournament by 2 strokes, you start thinking about some of those like missed opportunities on the putting green I had, as well as the, I think, 3 out of bounds that I took at South, if not 4 out of bounds I took at South, and just in general not being able to throw good forehands to give myself chances to, get pars or even score birdies in some situations. That's definitely something I need to work on. So the forehand is something I'm really going to need to kind of take a look at, maybe try to get some help with, try to start working on getting better form, because I've really never worked on my forehand. I've always really focused more on, practicing putting, practicing up shots, and getting my backhand form down, which I still have work to do on the backhand. That's very obvious. My distance is still not where I want it to be. I'm still kind of capped out at like that 325 to 340 foot range on my backhand, where I'm really trying to get more towards that 400 to 425 foot range. So I still have a lot of work to do in that regard. But with all that said, on average, I played pretty decent this tournament. I was throwing really good backhands off the tee. I was making some really good putts to save par, and I had a couple of birdie putts I was able to knock down. If I just keep working on my putting the way I have been and just keep consistent, I really think that I'll be able to have better putting performances going forward. So I think I finally have a putt I'm comfortable with, and I'm starting to put in the reps and get the muscle memory going. And so my putting definitely improved this tournament compared to the last couple, so that was good. I just need to keep working on it and keep chipping away at that. Again, definitely still need to kind of conquer this backhand form if I ever want to add that distance to give myself a chance to attack some of these longer par threes or give myself an easier time on some of these par fours that we play, and even some par fives in the future, I'm sure. And the mental game was definitely improved this tournament compared to the last couple, but it's something that I'm still struggling with a bit because it's like the first couple of times something bad happens, I can kind of shake it off. But again, there was, I think, one point at South, the second round, where I had like 4 or 5 bogeys in a row, and at that point I kind of cracked. But then I did fight back, and I birdied like 3 of the next 4 holes I played after that bogey streak. So yeah, it's kind of, ups and downs with the mental game. It's kind of my point. So definitely something I still need to work on, but it was an improvement. My putting was an improvement. The backhand was pretty good on average. It's just I need to work on that forehand, need to continue to work on the mental game, need to continue to work on the putting, and then, yeah, just need to continue, in general, getting better at the game. But all in all, had a lot of fun playing this tournament. While it wasn't the result that I wanted and, things didn't go the way I was kind of hoping for, I think all in all, it was still a step in the right direction. It was progress made. Hope you folks enjoyed the content. If you did, please follow, subscribe. Again, we're so close to 900 subs, and we're really aiming for that 1,000. So if you wouldn't mind, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, post some comments below, share it with your friends. Let's try to see if we can hit that 900 subscribers. Again, then the next goal will be to aim for 1,000. I'm going to continue to post, tournament content where I can. Looking to also keep up with the disc reviews that I'll be posting, as well as maybe going out there and like doing some fun challenges with friends or other stuff. I'm going to revisit some courses that have changed up a little bit since the last time I did a video at them to kind of keep that coming. There's also a couple of new courses I'm going to probably play here soon in the Mississippi and Louisiana area that I haven't been able to feature yet on the channel. So that's going to be coming soon as well. And so, yeah, just kind of keep a lookout for more content as I get time to get out there and record it. And without further ado, and to keep this video from getting too long, I just want to say bye-bye. Hope you enjoy the content. See you next time.